Right, welcome everyone to episode 2 of our, or 22 rather, I'll be jumping back a few episodes there, of our What If interview series where we discuss and share knowledge on customer experience, digital transformation and how to better serve customers via digital channels. And my name's Luke Stamper and I'm a content marketing executive for Mando. We are a digital agency committed to simplifying digital experiences for everyone. So we work within regulated industries with energy, utilities and financial services companies, focusing on helping your customers to do those tasks that they don't really want to do. So we don't all wake up thrilled to go downstairs and pay our water bill and renew our car insurance. We make these experiences easier, giving time back to customers so they can do more exciting things. So today our title is What If Every 10K You Spent on Digital Transformation Planted 500 Trees? To discuss this topic, we're joined by Ecologi's Head of Sales, Dennis Sittimer. Ecologi is a 22-month-old startup with over 6,000 business-to-business clients. And by planting trees and funding the world's best climate crisis solutions, Ecologi enable their members to offset their carbon footprint and remove CO2 from the atmosphere. Before we get started, just to let you all know that we also have my Mando colleague, Sarah Davies, on the call with us. Sarah will be helping with logistics and monitoring the chat throughout the course of the conversation. So if you have any questions or comments that occur as we're talking, please be sure to send them in to the Q&A section and Sarah will ask them at the end of the discussion. We usually chat for around 25 minutes-ish, and then we'll move on to some questions or comments. So I won't keep you waiting any longer, Dennis. Good morning, welcome. Could you introduce yourself a little bit for us, please, and just provide us with a little information surrounding your background and what you do for Ecologi?
Sure thing. Thank you, Luke. So my name is Dennis. I'm head of sales at Ecologi. My background is quite diverse. I've been an entrepreneur for most of my life, but I've been involved in every single step of the process. And about 2 years ago, 2.5 now maybe, I decided to change tack and fully focus on doing work that was good for the planet, had a good end result, etc. And through all kinds of serendipitous situations, I got in touch with Ecologi, and now I am the head of sales. So yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Could you also just provide us with a summary of Ecologi and outline a little bit around why Ecologi was created?
Yeah. So, we're in a climate emergency, and the general idea behind Ecologi is like, how can we enable individuals and companies to take more action, to take more substantiative action on the climate emergency? Like, how can we empower people to do more? And that was the base, and from there we've grown. So of our 6,000 customers, for example, a vast majority are SMEs, like either sole proprietors or maybe up to 10 employees or something like that. And it used to be very, very difficult for small companies to take climate action, and we've just dramatically simplified that, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So I'll kick things off. So in recent episodes, I've sort of highlighted a couple of stats that really paint a picture around the topic of discussion. And I've personally found this to be, a really good way to start the conversation. And with today's topic being about how we could and should live more sustainably and how important it is to reduce our carbon footprint, I've gathered a couple of what I think are really poignant stats around how climate change and what the future of the issue is. So there's more carbon dioxide in our atmosphere than any time in human history. Around half of the CO2 emitted since 1750 has been in the last 40 years. Sea levels are rising at the fastest rate in 3,000 years, an average of 3 millimeters per year. And lastly, in 2018, the UK experienced the hottest summer since 2006. And a scientific study into last year's data showed that such heat waves are now 30 times more likely due to climate change. And Dennis, I suppose you can't not agree with these stats, but would you agree with what I've just said and what I've just outlined, and what is your understanding of the current issue?
Yeah. Sadly, I have to agree, right? Like we've managed to create quite a mess as a species, and the outlook is pretty bleak. I read the other day that more and more psychologists, organizations are starting to see climate anxiety as a real condition, and that couldn't exist without these statistics that you've mentioned. But I also believe that we're a very inventive species, and I believe that we're pretty good at finding solutions to very, very difficult problems. So instead of fear, I really think we should just get together and work on this mess. The battle is absolutely far from won. I mean, there's so much left to do, but I'm actually really hopeful that we'll win. I might be painted, of course, by the situation where I'm constantly talking to companies that are looking to solve the problem, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them out there. So that gives me a lot of hope.
Great, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in the run up to this episode, particularly, but long before then, really, it's been something that I'm very passionate about, and I've been researching this topic for months. Mando are doing a lot around this now, this area. So it's something that I've been particularly focused on, and it's something that I'm really passionate about. One question that I see being asked a lot online is my carbon footprint really that big? Am I right in thinking, Dennis, that most people's carbon footprint goes far beyond the targets for limiting climate change?
Yeah, so it's a very sensitive question to ask, because it's an opaque issue by default, right? So a lot of the science is based on estimations, right? So it's not a hard science. People and statistics or lies and statistics. What's the saying, right? Like you can twist all this data in many different ways. So it's a very, very difficult and opaque thing to look at. So if you have a high carbon hobby like driving race cars or jumping out of airplanes, then of course you've got a big carbon footprint. But if you're trying to minimize your carbon footprint, then you'll have a positive impact as well, or you have a less negative impact. The thing is, you'll still have an impact. There's no solution where you can say, okay, let's buy a skateboard and that skateboard is completely climate neutral, right? Like that doesn't exist yet. You can offset it, but it's like the technology isn't there to create a carbon neutral lifestyle without doing something more. And the other big problem, I think, is that if you're sacrificing for something and you have no idea how good you're doing, that's a recipe for anxiety. And that's essentially what's happening with the climate emergency, right? So there's no feedback you might have decided to change your diet. You're a hardcore meat eater and you decide to go vegan because you're just so concerned about the future of your children, which is something we should all be. And then you're eating vegan and you're sort of trying to convince yourself that you actually like it, but sometimes you walk by a barbecue and you just catch yourself like running like, oh, I really want to eat this, right? And you're sort of having this internal battle. I can't get myself to eat that meat because I love my children and all that kind of stuff. But then you still see fires and you still see like oil tankers capsize and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really difficult situation. So how big is your carbon footprint it's a long question. The answer to that question is actually not really an answer at all, because the thing is it's a difficult thing to come out to. That said, we've been trying to simplify it. So what we've done is we've used all the data we can find, and we've assessed that an average UK carbon footprint, for an average citizen, a carbon footprint is 9.2 tons per year. And that means like high carbonating hobbies or high carbon diets and all that kind of stuff. It might go a little bit over, it might be a little bit less. 9.2 tons is something that we're comfortable with. If you ask others, some might say 8 tons and some might say 10 tons, right? So you have to, that's when, entrepreneurship is key. It's climate action, not climate perfection. That's I guess, what I'm trying to get with this rant.
I suppose the lines are blurred slightly, but I can imagine your carbon footprint is significantly less than mine with the hobbies that are displayed behind you there on the skateboards. Unfortunately, I don't have the balance for that, so I'll stick with my car for now. So this has obviously become a massive issue in recent times. It's highlighted in the news, in documentaries, films, social media, pretty much everywhere, and rightly so. Do you think the emphasis around it is having a positive impact? And is it really changing the way people think, behave? You've just highlighted there around, people picking up, going to vegetarian options over meat. And I'm sure that's been a massive thing in recent times, but do you think the emphasis around it is really changing things? Is my question.
Do you have a gym membership, Luke?
Oh, no, I don't. Don't put me on the spot like that.
No, well, but I'm sure you can imagine what it is like to have a gym membership, right? Like most people, when they have a gym membership, they say like, oh, yeah, I've got a gym membership. I pay the membership, but I don't go to the gym, right? And the reason why I bring that up is because changing people's behavior is really hard, right? Like it's very much an uphill battle. And if you think about, going to the gym and trying to, lose weight or build muscle or whatever you want to do, it requires you to make a lot of hard changes. And most people yo-yo, right? They do it for a while and they fall off again. So if you would take the climate emergency as, the diet of the planet, and we all have to change our behavior, then in the best case, we will all be yo-yoing, right? Like there will be short, like in the gym world, it's like 8% of the population goes to the gym because they absolutely love it. And then you got this huge swath of people that go to the gym because they're trying to force themselves, right? Yeah. and the thing is that huge swath of people is also true for the planet, right? So we've got this huge swath of people that care for the planet, want to do something for the planet, but changing behavior is hard. And that's why I think entrepreneurship is key, right? We need to make the good choice, the default choice, right? Convenience is the key driver of human behavior. So as long as it's difficult, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's sort of what I'm saying.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so I'll move on slightly to the way in which we unpack the webinars. So the way that they tend to set up, we explore three key areas. We tend to explore the past, how things used to be, the present, so the current state of affairs, and the future, where I'll ask you to look into the crystal ball and make some predictions for the future. But with that said, we know that things, we know that we're in what can only be described as a climate emergency, and we know how we've got to this crucial stage. But how do you think that we've got to this? How do you think we've got to this point in time?
Yeah, so it's a pretty well-known story, right? Like, and it all started with the steam engine, right? Like that's where the whole story begins, and finding oil fields and all that kind of stuff. And that's correct, right? Like if you look at the post Second World War boom of plastics and all that kind of stuff, and nobody really caring about the planet back then. But I always think, like, from a consumer behavior, right? From a consumer point of view, like why did it get so much out of control? And it brings me back to that point that I just finished on. Like, people seek convenience. And if you think about it, when you driving, which in and on its own is a convenience thing, right? You want to go from A to B and you'd rather not use a horse and carriage, or maybe you jump on your bike, but your bike is still made and still produced in a way that it's bad for the planet. And then you stop at a petrol station and you're hungry, right? Why is everything wrapped in plastic? Because it's convenient, right? And if because it's convenient, it means that it sells, right? If your local petrol station would only allow you to make your own sandwiches or something like that, right? Like some inconvenient stuff, then they would get competed to bits and by somebody else. So sadly, it's a lot easier to hurt the planet than to take care of it right now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the things we do are actually, like, a lot of the business models are about hurting the planet, right? Like if you dig something out of the earth and sell it, then all you have to do is buy that little piece of the planet from somewhere and dig more and get more money. And eventually, like, people are driven by money in that way as well. So I think that's how we got here, right? Like it's just human nature is to find comfort, to seek convenience, to seek safety, and the innovations that we were, for many years, the innovations that we've been doing to provide that convenience and provide that comfort, we didn't care about the planet impact. We didn't know about the planet impact, right? Or some people might have known about the planet impact and just didn't care. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs just didn't know how bad they were for the planet. So now that we know, we can still invent the same things. We can still make, super convenient sandwiches or super convenient products, without hurting the planet. We just don't know how yet. But
Yeah.
let's repeat the industrial age in a way, but just do it smarter and better. That's what I think.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you for that. So we know Ecologi was formed 22 months ago, but how has the business grown in recent times?
Yeah, it's been super encouraging. That's also why I'm so positive about that. We like, the war's not won, but I do believe we have a chance of winning it. So we've been growing exponentially. When I joined, we did like maybe 100,000, 150,000 trees a month. So that's about 16 months ago. And today we do about 1 million trees every 10 days.
Wow,
10, 15
that's
days.
amazing.
So it's
amazing.
really exponential. And the same with the businesses. So when I joined, we had about 150 businesses, 200 maybe, and now we're about 6,000. So
that's incredible.
That's really, really cool.
So are there any sort of, I know about the tree planting initiative, but I'd just like to sort of explore the other projects that you support via Ecologi.
Yeah. So the one of the things that makes us a bit of an old duck is that we choose which carbon offsetting projects our customers support, right? Both consumers and businesses. So we just make the choice for you. We have 3 major categories. So natural projects, renewable projects, and humanitarian projects. But yeah, so we make that choice for everybody. So it's you pay £3.70 for a ton of carbon, and we'll just make sure that you're supporting the absolute best there is. Great.
Thank you very much. So as we discussed how things used to be, I'm keen to focus on the issue as it currently stands for a little while. As I've already outlined, almost every media outlet we have access to has emphasised that we're at this crucial point, a make or break point in the road, really, where we've no option but to change the way in which we live to protect the planet. How does becoming a member of Ecologi or planting trees via Ecologi help to stop climate change?
Yeah, so at Ecologi, our mission is to halt climate change, right? And we quantify that by offsetting 50% of the global carbon footprint by 2040. And by you supporting these projects, what you're effectively doing is you're offsetting your life. So earlier I mentioned that there's just no physical way to live a climate positive life without tree planting or carbon offsetting right now, but because the value chain just simply isn't there. Even if you go and live in a hut in the forest, you're probably still going to have a carbon footprint in some way. So it's just not possible right now. And the actual origin story of Ecologi was that the co-founders were looking for a way to make this additional impact. And they figured out that the cost to offset your life, right, for an average UK citizen, the cost to offset those 9.2 tons a year is the same as a coffee and a croissant per month at Pret a Manger, right? Yeah. And that sort of blew their minds. So that's something that's the whole baseline, right? Like if it's that cheap to offset, then do that. So yeah, then it's not necessarily a 100% solution, right? A lot needs to be changing for the climate emergency for us to get out of this mess. But by offsetting your life or offsetting your company and planting trees, at least you're buying the planet some extra time. We are in an emergency, but not everybody is ready to take action. But if you can actually do something now to help, buy Mother Nature some extra time.
Absolutely. So many of our listeners today will be digital professionals responsible for managing digital estates and providing outstanding digital experiences to their customers. Do you think there's a way in which digital professionals can live more sustainably in order to have a positive impact upon climate change?
Absolutely. I mean, I think digital professionals are disproportionately well positioned to make a huge impact on the climate emergency, because as a digital professional, which I count myself to as well, like we influence people's behavior, right? Especially if you're, for example, product marketing managers or product managers, right? You're constantly thinking about how can you keep people coming back to your app, or how can you make sure that engagement rises and all that kind of stuff. You can integrate sustainable action into those things. At Ecologi, we have APIs for both tree planting and carbon offsetting. So, one of the things that a lot of our customers do is plant a tree for every sale they make, right? And a tree is 12p. So that's you can do so much with those 12p to drive behavior. So we've got people that see like a tremendous drop in cart abandonment. The last statistic I heard was 20% drop in cart abandonment when you promise to plant a tree, right? And that's quite a mind-blowing number. But my favorite story is of a New Zealand-based company that makes hotel access cards. So the card that you get to get into your room. And then when you drive, when you check out and you drive home and you go like, oh, I still have the card in my pocket, right? Like I guess that happens to a lot of people. And what they've done is they created like a return box, and the box is on the reception's desk, and it just says, plant a tree for every card you return. And their returns are just shut up, right? Like, because you walk out of the thing and you're sort of having out of the hotel, you're having your base memory that you have that card, and just the ability to plant a tree with that card makes you go like, oh, that's such a simple thing to do, right?
Yes, such a good idea. Love that. So
there's a lot you can do with it.
How can someone or a business get a real understanding of their carbon footprint?
So that's one of the things that we do at Ecologi is we create a profile page for you. And this profile page is a visual representation of the action that you're taking. So you both have a forest with trees that grow up over time. And so for every tree that you plant, you get a digital representation in your forest. And you also find your carbon offsets there. And that profile sort of closes the loop on the climate action bit. So if you look at it from a business to consumer point of view, if you just as a consumer sign up, so I got 4 kids and my family and I are signed up. My kids and I, we look at the trees and we click on them and to figure out where they're planted, and we have stories around that and all that kind of stuff. And the reason why I'm engaging them is because I want to show them that, hey, you're doing something for the environment. Like, for example, we always pick up garbage when we see it, which is the polar opposite of what I've been told as a kid. But I think that my kids are pretty good at washing their hands now. And then we sit down and we see the profile, and you get sort of the feedback loop that it's more than just picking up garbage from the ground. We're actually doing more. So that feedback loop is really, really powerful. Also, if you're using it as a digital professional, and if you're saying in your campaigns that we're planting trees, what you're trying to do is you're trying to, apart from doing good for the planet, you're addressing the climate anxiety of your target audience, right? If you can't then show where those trees are planted, then you're not really closing the loop on their behavior. And you just, so that's why we feel it's so important to be able to point people to this profile page where you can see the forest. And here are your trees. This is what you've done.
Yeah, amazing. So just on the trees, how do you ensure that those trees that are planted are protected?
So we right now you should see us as an efficiency layer. So we make it really simple to buy trees and do carbon offsets and to report on both those actions. So that's essentially what we're doing. And because of that, we're working with a lot of partners. And our primary tree planting partner is called the Eden Reforestation Project, which is by far the best tree or rewilding organization out there. And recently we became an ecosystem level partner with them. So it's us, Ecosia, Tentree, and Tree Sisters. It's the four ecosystem level partners, and that just means that we're one of their biggest providers of revenue for planting trees. And this is a charity with a huge burden of proof, etc. We're also using satellite imagery to follow the progress of locations and stuff like that. So yeah, as I said, we make the decision for the carbon offsets, but we also make the decision where the trees are planted. So we take all the anxiety of making those decisions away from our customers. The upside, one of the upsides of that is that we are extremely careful with who we work with, because if we mess it up, we mess it up for everybody. And we're also completely transparent. So you can find all of our finances online, all of that kind of stuff.
Great. So we're going to move into my favorite bit, the future. So if things don't improve and we don't change the way in which we live, we're headed down a path that will be pretty hard to come back from. What are Ecologi doing to stop this issue getting any worse?
So until now we've planted about 15 million trees in 22 months. Wow. And we're upping that pace. I'm saying we, but of course it's our member base. We're facilitating it, right? So our goal is to plant billions more, and to really enable entrepreneurs around the world to use this not only to make a climate positive impact, but also to make a what do you call that? A revenue positive impact, right? So that's what we're very, very big about. And I think that how much do you like to breathe, right? That's something that we're jumping in on for both our customers and their customers.
Yeah, brill. Yeah, no, it's an easy question to answer, that one. Very, very much so. So before we move on to some questions from today's audience, I just want to ask you one last thing. And whilst we keep our webinars conversation-led and exploring the key issues, we also like to focus on the practical suggestions which can be implemented to help our viewers excel. So with that in mind, what are your top 3 tips, your key takeaways, if you like, which you think would, companies could adopt to make a difference in this area, to make more sustainable businesses, to reduce carbon footprint, and to have a positive impact upon our planet?
Cool. Yeah. So first, if you offer coffee at the workplace, right? If you're okay with paying lunch for your workforce every once in a while or something like that, then just buy every single one a coffee and a croissant in the form of setting up their climate positive workforce, right? That's £5.20 per employee per month if they don't do any additional travel, and otherwise it goes up. But it's just purely based on offsetting everybody's life. And that means that you're offsetting not only the 8 hours that they're at work, but also the 16 hours that they're at home, right? So you're actually making a huge positive impact for a tiny cost. And it's also an employee benefit. So that's the first thing I should do. The second thing I would recommend is to go for using sustainability in your marketing. It is a growing problem, so there are more and more people looking for it. If you want to drive your revenue, start planting trees, start doing climate action, change the behavior of your customers. And the last, which is the most difficult one, is to think about what can you do to make the sustainable choice the most convenient choice, because that's the real problem that we need to solve. People vote with their wallets. So if you come up with a solution that's sustainable but not convenient, it's going to be hard to push it. So yeah, those are my 3 key takeaways, I'd say. That's
brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on to some questions from today's audience. But just before we do, I'd like to highlight that Mando has recently made a commitment to plant 500 trees for every £10,000 of services in time-based revenue that we deliver for our clients. By working with Ecologi, the Mando Green team, doing all they can to ensure environmental best practices. And in May, we have planted over 13,000 trees on behalf of our clients. So that's a fairly significant number, and that's something we're going to continue to do. But Sarah, do you have any questions from today's audience, please?
I just want to say what a great conversation. Definitely got me thinking about the coffee and croissant now. I'll be thinking about the impact of that. As the question I've got in today was, as a regulated industry, what can I be doing to influence my customers to be more sustainable?
That's a tough question. What do you mean with a regulated industry? It's just because you're afraid of the rules, or like, I'm guessing it's hard to get elaboration around it?
Yeah, I think probably it's because you've got governance and you have to obviously meet certain requirements. So is there any recommendations that you can give to these kind of companies?
Yeah, so one of the challenges with the climate emergency is that we have a lot of what I call climate perfectionists, and they're making life really difficult for the climate actionists, if you like. So, start a conversation, reach out to us. We're happy to help you with any insecurities that you have. Like, one of the things that we do for all of our climate positive workforces is that we help you with your messaging and help you with your decision process. So we don't do the actual calculation of your scope 1, 2, and 3, or your life cycle analysis, that kind of stuff. We have partners who we work with, like the Planet Mark and 8 Associates and others. But essentially, the question is, can you take action X, right? And in some cases, the answer is yes. In some cases, the answer is yes, but there might be some bumps on the road. But essentially, we all need to take action. And where you can influence, there's so many routes you can take, right? Plant trees, do carbon offsets, we just have to find the right flow, and that's a really difficult question to answer in one single sentence. But there's a lot you can do. So reach out, Dennis@ecologi.com, or just reach out through Ecologi's website, and we'll help you out with finding something that you can do.
Brilliant.
I think the big thing is, like you said, convenience, making it as easy as possible.
Yeah, exactly. So we try to find ways where, for example, that behavior, if you're trying to drive a behavior like that the hotel access card company is doing, try adding planting a tree as a reward, right? How much is that behavior worth to you? Okay, it's worth £1 per interaction. Okay, the tree costs 12p, right? So I've got, what is that, 70 or 88p left, right? Okay, can I when I add the trees, is it still going to cost me 88p, or is it going to be less? You'll probably see that will cost you less than 88p, because people are way more motivated by planting trees than any discount, or, well, not any discount, but a lot of discounts and stuff like that. So yeah, drive that, make the convenient choice and impact, and I think you've got something amazing.
Fab, back to you, Luke. Thank you.
Great. So that's everything. Thank you very much, Dennis. I could sit and talk to you all morning about this. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And yeah, so this goes out on demand early next week. And as I said, thank you very much, Dennis. It was a really, really enlightening conversation. I've had a great time talking to you. And yeah, I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Likewise. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks very much. Bye. Speak to you soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.